Morning, Catherine. How you doing?
I do not look as professionally awake as you do right now.
Well, are you in LA right now, or are you actually in Austin already?
No, I'm in Aspen.
Oh, Jesus.
What an
Well,
answer.
so you're an hour, yeah, you're an hour behind me for one, so I don't blame you at all. And I wish I had just woken up, but I've got a 10 and 8-year-old, so I'm forced to be awake
Ugh.
6:15 every day.
You probably go to bed at midnight after they've woken up four times.
They sleep pretty well once they go down. Unfortunately, I'm also a night owl, so inevitably some
Yeah.
nights I'm just staying awake watching reruns of Arrested Development until 1 in the morning, and I'm like, what am I doing with my life right now?
I get it though. Do you like the original version or the second version of Arrested Development?
So the most hardcore of fans hate the Netflix version of Arrested
Yeah.
Development. Actually, I want to say there were 3 seasons on Netflix, or maybe there were two. The first part that they put out was actually really good, in my opinion. There was
Mm.
a storyline with the Job character and then the Ben Stiller character, where they're like falling in
Yeah.
love with one another, and then the Ben
Yeah.
Stiller character dies in a magic trick that they're trying, and the Job character just doesn't get it because he's such an idiot. So
Yeah.
there were moments like that that I thought were really good, but as soon as they lost the Lindsay character, she didn't want to come back for the final season. I feel like that was kind of a jump the shark moment for the show. How about you?
Honestly, now that you're even saying this, I'm like, I thought I've seen all of it. I don't think I saw that episode or that season. I had, this is so weird. I had the CDs, I had the DVDs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was so obsessed. But now that I'm realizing it, I didn't watch that last season. So I was obviously an original. What was it on in the beginning?
It
You
was on
know?
Fox in the beginning, and it was always about
Okay.
to get canceled. Also, they were mocking the fact that the show was so good, and Fox was about to cancel it because there weren't enough people watching.
Which is nuts. And then it just turns into a cult classic.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how you do it, right? It's like the
Yeah.
whole Mr. Show bit.
Yeah.
You're in Aspen right now. Are you performing there right now? Is that what's
Yeah.
going
I performed last night.
on? Okay.
In Aspen I'm in Snowmass Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm driving to Vail tonight to perform.
Oh wow.
And then I'll sleep in Denver and then catch a flight Friday morning to Austin.
That's
This
a really
is
cool part of the country. I can't speak for the comedy crowds. I've never seen a comedy show there, but the mountains are never a bad place to visit, winter or summer.
yeah, this was my first time performing in Aspen. I've performed all over Colorado, which is a fun state to perform in because depending on the city, you can have a completely different crowd.
Hmm.
Denver is very different than Loveland. They're almost like two different countries.
Wait,
Um,
there is a comedy. There's a place for comedy in Loveland, Colorado.
I opened for Burt Kreischer there
Oh, okay. Oh,
at
it is like a
a
festival. Yeah.
arena. Yeah, but uh, I was like, this is like paradise for wealthy snow bunnies up here. So I was like, what kind of crowd am I gonna get? They were surprisingly, they got all my references. I made jokes about Toyota Corollas, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we remember when we had one as a toddler. For our father gave us one to play in."
That was their
But
version of a Tonka truck.
yeah, yeah, they crashed a few playing Hot Wheels. Um, but yeah, it was really fun actually. So we'll see how Vale is. I feel like Vale is a little bit more commercial than Aspen.
Okay, I'll take your
I don't
word.
know.
I've only been to Breckenridge, I guess, in terms of ski communities like that.
Yeah, this is hilarious. This one, like the fashion just at the baggage claim was insane. I mean, there were fur coats down to the floor. The bags that came out of baggage claim was a runway show in itself. They were Louis Vuitton and like Lacoste and like I mean, I was like, I've never the money just in the bags was insane. This is a very unique place. I mean, I went down to Aspen like in the snow town yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, there are dogs who have I guarantee there's dogs that have fur extensions on. I saw some golden retrievers. I was like, some of that's not your natural hair, girl. You bought that.
Oh God.
I saw children with personal assistants.
Yeah, yeah. The service animals are wearing Armani vests, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they looked at me like, did my dad hire you? I
Do
don't
you,
know. And
do you ski at all, or are you just laying low during the day?
I would have loved to ski. I do ski, but I'm on a multi-city trip
Yeah,
and I've got half or almost a week in Austin coming up, and I didn't want to pack ski pants,
yeah.
and I already have like a puffy coat, but I didn't want to have to pack ski stuff on top of that. So I sat out here and I watched people go down runs on my balcony while I wrote a script instead and said, if this script sells, then I can buy me and my friends a whole weekend out here.
Oh, you're
See,
right.
that's the mindset.
You know what? You've got to find time to work, and sometimes you
Hmm.
have to sacrifice play in an effort to continue doing great things. And you are obviously doing some great things right now. I mean, there
Hmm.
are a handful of comics that I saw on the list this year that I was really excited to try and make an effort to see newer comics, if you will, even though you've been at it for a while now. And the two top names on that list are you and Drew Dunn for me. I actually
Oh
saw
yeah.
Drew in the last year at Moon Tower last year, I believe.
Hmm.
But you've come here a couple of different times. You headlined at the Creek and the Cave on a
Hmm.
weekend, and then you also headlined tonight at Sunset Strip. And I feel like I
Hmm.
was out of town both times. So I am going to make an effort. I'm glad you just mentioned that you're going to be here for a week, though, because the South by Southwest website only has you down for one gig, and that's this weekend. So you are going to be hanging out in Austin, just popping in places all week long?
Yeah, yeah. I know I'm still waiting to hear what the rest of my South by schedule is. I kind of got lumped in last minute, so I think that they're still figuring out as well. And I'm like, well, I'll be there, so call me.
It's
But yeah,
not just a you
I've
thing for the record. They have stuff scheduled this weekend, and then Doug Loves Movies, a podcast recording the
yeah,
following weekend. So like the entire week is wide open. So they're maybe still figuring it out too.
okay. I'm love that I'm the only one. I'm like, can I stay for that podcast? Um, I yeah, there's I mean, I love going to Austin. Like uh, there's what, six clubs on that strip right now, or
Yeah.
almost it feels like. And so I can go down there. It's like a little miniature New York because I'm in LA and I'm always jealous of my New York friends because they can get up 4, 5 times a night if they really want to and hustle. And Austin now has turned into a miniature version of that, where if I have a new bit and I'm just want to kind of constantly hammer it out and work it out, I can go to Austin for 3 days
Yeah.
and get up, 15 times. And by the end of it, it's pretty nice and polished. Because also the crowds, no matter where you are great. That even there's some like smaller clubs that have fantastic crowds. Have you ever heard of the Black Rabbit?
So I've heard of it and I want to go
Mhm.
check it out because it sounds
Oh,
like a Chicago Zanies type club where it's the
yes.
ceilings, you're having to go down a little bit and you just can't help but to get punched in the face by really good comedy.
Yeah, that one. I mean, it's a little hidden gem. I feel like that. There's a East Austin.
Yep.
Yeah, and then obviously like my friends run Sunset. I love that club. I swear it does feel haunted, but in a
I
good
haven't been to
way.
that club yet either, and I've also heard that same thing. So when you're back in the
Yeah.
green room, there's just random breezes hitting you in the side of the head.
Yeah, yeah. But only if you have a bad set. So, yeah,
That's a
it's the
pressure.
ghost. Yeah, it's the ghost being like you should work on that one. So, I never felt a breeze. Um and then obviously like Mothership and then the Creek are the big dogs. But oh, also like Cap City, I know is out in what's the little
The
development
domain,
area?
yeah, the
The
outdoor shop.
Domain. They have a major room, but also they have a small room upstairs, the red room. I love the red room. It's small and it's an intimate. And for some reason, I mean, I obviously would love to do the big rooms and sell them out, but sometimes the small, intimate rooms are the best because everybody feels like I'm part of the show in a way that like we're all kind of in this together. And you're not so spread out with like chicken fingers and a cheesecake in front of you. that you can kind of slump down and feel like you're like watching this from such an afar that whatever you, if you don't laugh or you don't respond or anything, it won't affect the show. When you're in these smaller rooms, everybody, you can see everybody, everybody can see you seeing them, and everybody gets on board, and it's kind of, that's what the magic is.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because for me, as somebody who is just a big fan of stand up and has gotten the chance to watch a lot of it over my life, but especially these last couple of years as Austin has turned into this sort of third coast for stand up comedy.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to see Louis C.K. at ACL Live at the Moody Theater. It's a really cool venue to see music or comedy shows, but I saw him perform at the Creek and the Cave a
Mhm.
year and a half ago. And all things equal, if he's doing the same set, telling the jokes exactly like he should at each place, there's no way I'm going to enjoy the ACL Live at the Moody Theater show more than the Creek and the Cave show because
Mhm.
that intimacy is important with stand-up
Mhm.
comedy. And that's not to say you can't enjoy yourself. Like you mentioned that you opened for Bert on his outdoor tour. I think that was last year. Like I'm sure that was a lot of fun. That's a really good time, but it also does take away a little bit from I think what makes stand up so special.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, looking at people and like having interactions,
Yeah.
and it's, even if you're not a crowd work comic, the smaller rooms still matter
Hmm.
because you still feed off of the energy, and you could find little characters in the crowd. But like, at some point you just, uh, you know, your show, you can sell out arenas. You're not gonna not sell out arenas. I think the only comic who could sell bigger but likes the clubs is Dave Attell. I mean, that man could do theaters. I think he sometimes does theaters. I'm not really sure. Even, or and large theaters if he really wanted to. But he instead will come and do 7, 8 shows at a club in a weekend, for 200, 300 people. And because he's a real comic, he's in it for the love of the game, and it shows. There is, I will say something about, I open for Bird in arenas a lot. There is something fun about arenas because you have jumbotrons,
Mm.
so the crowd is huge. You've got 20,000 people out there, but it's very zoomed up on your face in the screens. So you can still kind of do like a wink or a
Okay.
nod or
Okay.
an inflection. And they still kind of, it's like an extra tag to a punchline that they'll see because it's so zoomed in. But I mean, at some point, what do you say? You're just like, well, if you're successful enough to sell thousands of tickets, you got to do it.
Yeah, well, not just that, but also the evolution of this art form. Like the guys who do the arena thing regularly, they're going to figure out a way to maximize that intimacy even in a larger venue. Like I talked
Mhm.
to Sebastian Maniscalco a little while back before he came to Austin, and he was explaining all the different efforts that they were making production value wise to ensure that people were still feeling a sense of camaraderie, even though there were going to be 20,000 people surrounding him in that round. So,
Yeah.
hats off to folks who were able to do that. And there are a lot of people that went and saw that show, or like Nate Bargatze or somebody like that, where like they leave the show and they're like, "That's the hardest I've ever laughed." I'm like, you know what? That's awesome for you. I'm just too spoiled at this point. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I go to Cap City, I go to Creek in the Cave, I go to the Mothership, I go all these places and see these world class killers do so with 300 or so people. Like I saw Dave Attell and Ian Fidance at
Hmm.
Cap City like 2 years ago now, and it was hilarious in part because there were two just idiot girls sitting right next to us. We were on stage, and they were both on their phones the entire time that Ian was on stage. And as you're probably familiar, you do not want to mess with Ian. He completely lit them on fire. They ended up walking out before Attell, which I was partially thankful for, but part of me wanted to see Attell completely dismantle them as well.
Yeah.
But to your point, David Tell is just he's a legend. I mean, there's a reason why
Mm.
he's revered by not just crowds, but maybe more importantly, comedians too.
Yeah. Oh, he's the goat of like like comedy, in the sense that he loves comedy so much he does not care about the fame.
Yeah.
Like, and Ian is very good friends with him. He's much closer with him. But I just love the fact that like after shows, no matter how much he crushes or whatever, like all he wants to do is stand in the back alley of the club, smoking a cigarette and cutting up with comics. It's nothing about the glory and going and finding fans that goo goo gaga over him. He just goes back to the just riffing and with comics. Like he's the best. It
Dave,
is
and
those
then he also
those
wants to crush ice cream too, really late at night, which is also very respectable.
yeah. I'm like him and Ian, they go on the road together. I'm like, how are you guys alive? You you live on coffee, cigarettes, and ice cream. And somehow you're doing better than half the people at the gym at 7 a.m.
It's the whole Burgess Meredith character from Grumpy Old Men, where he eats bacon
Right.
and smokes cigarettes every day and lives to 100. Some people
Right.
have the genetics.
I know. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror in the gym. I'm like, what am I doing? Why don't I why not I go take a shot and a cigarette right now and see if that works better?
I don't know. I try shots and cigarettes in my mid 40s, and it does not feel as good the next day. That's the problem with that lifestyle for me, right?
Yeah. It takes I almost feel like it's like a different species of human being.
Yeah.
Those I think some of us are French bulldogs who need a very specific diet and doctor's appointments every other day. And then there's people like them that have they are mutts. You know what I mean? Like nothing will harm them.
Yeah,
And I
they've
think
had mange.
right,
They've had to eat squirrels because they were running around without an owner for a while. Yeah, that's a
right.
good
There's a
analogy.
couple bullets in their side. They're fine. They got a hitch in their hip a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the mothership has obviously gotten a lot of acclaim since it opened a couple of years ago. It opened, I want to say, almost 2 years ago because it was around South by Southwest. Have you actually
Yes.
done sets there? And if so, what were your impressions of this place that has obviously gotten a lot of love from folks?
Yeah, I did a few sets there. I judged some roast battle like championships there. And it was fun. We got to do sets before in the main room, and it was so fun. I was like, okay, I get it. I get the hype. And then we get to sit out there and judge roast battles. And I've even just gone and hung out there. I opened for Spade a lot, and so I was at the Kill Tony when Spade and Attell were on it together.
Oh, wow.
Um, comics go there. There's very much a comic hang to it. Going to Mitzi's afterwards, the bar downstairs
Yeah.
is very cool. That's like, I think that is always cool when a club is conscious of creating a space for comics and knowing that obviously the stage time and creating a a crowd that is so enthusiastic for whoever gets on stage is awesome, but also just like making sure you have these little spaces where the comics can sit and grow and hang out together is really cool. But the crowd was, I've done it twice now. Both times though, the crowd was I mean, it was almost like this is too easy.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I was like, I'm a god after I got off stage. So it is like very interesting that people are huge that go there are not just I want to go to the mothership to do this touristy thing. You can tell they are comedy fans.
Yeah, that's true for the most part. I actually went and saw your friend Ian Edwards last weekend at the
Ugh,
uh,
the best.
such a great dude, hilarious as well. I don't know what was in the water on this Saturday night, but there were a lot of people yelling stuff out, and it was like, dude, shut the hell up, especially
Really?
because they don't mess around at that club. The security is all MMA guys, so if they really do have to get you out of that club, you're probably gonna be suffering a little bit
What?
physically as a result.
Was Ian encouraging it or was he like,
No,
shut up?
as a matter of fact, it started with the opener and it continued a little bit with the feature. And then when Ian got on, it's almost like it crescendoed. And it was from the same couple of people every time. So they were the mothership, to their credit. I mean, they tried to give a couple of chances, but I mean, the guy was doing it at the very end. And at that point, it was like, well, this is the finality of it here. But it's like, guys, I realize you see, and you've obviously helped boost your
Mhm.
presence through social media clips, and a little bit of that is crowd work. But it's like, unless the comic is saying something to you directly, just shut the hell up, please.
Mhm.
Not only ruining what they're trying to do with this performance art, because that's what it is, but you're also you're annoying and disrupting those around you who also paid good money to come see the person on stage do what they're doing, not to hear you
Yeah.
go Mystery Science Theater 3000 on this show.
Did Ian, was he treading a fine line there? Was he trying to shut him down without killing the energy of the room at the very end of the show?
He was a total professional. As a matter of fact, somebody did it at I want to say like probably 4 or 5 lines into a setup that he was doing. And
Hmm.
I've never seen a comic disarm a heckler, but get to reset the joke in a way that it doesn't completely ruin the joke with how he handled it after the fact, where he basically told the person to shut the hell up. The person did shut up, and he's like, well, now this joke's ruined, so I guess I'm just gonna have to repeat myself or something. I don't remember the exact verbiage. But it worked. I was so happy to see that because I was annoyed, and part of it was the fact that the guy was like 3 seats away from me. I'm like, dude, shut the hell up. But Ian handled it like a pro. You expect nothing less out of him, though.
Yeah, he's a maestro at it. He wakes up like 5 a.m. and writes every morning.
Yeah.
And I've seen just in the original room at the store very recently, a guy was just popping off, wouldn't stop. And he stood up and he was a giant man. And, Ian's on the other side of that scale. He's a bit on the smaller side. And I remember being like, oh God, this might be the end for him. And he just stood up there and just kind of destroyed him in a very casual, like, sometimes destroying someone in the audience who needs it at that point isn't like going hard at them. It's just like you can have a very casual, I don't care about you, you don't affect me, one or two lines. That's even more lethal than like, looking them in the eyes and being relentless. But he did, and the guy just kind of tucked his tail and walked out. And it's I love watching Ian work because he's so comfortable in his timing.
Mhm.
He doesn't have to be super fast. He's not worried about keeping you at a high frequency all the time. He can kind of sit in the pocket a little bit and then take his time, and then when it delivers, it hits so hard. And somebody who's neurotic as hell, watching that, I'm like, oh, that's so uncomfortable for me, but he's so good at it.
So smooth, so laid back. He's not afraid of
Mhm.
a little bit of silence in between what
Yes.
it is that he's saying or before the setup, whatever else. Yeah, I admire his style a lot as well. But I really enjoy watching you do your thing on stage. You put out Catholic Cowgirl near the end of
Hmm.
last year. Hilarious special. You can find it, watch it for free on YouTube through 800 Pound Gorilla. It was performed in Houston,
Hmm.
recorded in Houston on the day that Beyonce released her most recent album.
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
giant white porcelain looking horse in the background as well. And you have a great blend of physicality or act out with your comedy while also making sure that your words matter as well. So are you to the point now that that special is out that you've turned your material over entirely and you're working on all new stuff, Catherine?
Yeah, I actually was just talking to my manager yesterday. I was like, I think I'm almost at the hour. I
Wow.
got some fine tweaks here and there I need to make, but I'm like, I'd like to shoot a new hour within the next 3 months.
Hmm.
And I love this one. I do feel like I'm growing. I think that this is a step up from what I did before.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's always like, well, the good thing is once the special comes out, you have shot it and you've been working on the edits for months. So
Yeah.
you've had time to start to rework a new hour by the time it comes out, you're on the road. But yeah, I think it took me there's probably like 3 months or so when it had come out that I hadn't fully turned over the next hour. But
Yeah.
that's when you're like, this show might be a little crowd work heavy.
That's okay. That's a different part of the comedic brain. So
Right.
that can sometimes help you to get to some of those the more planned material too, right?
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Sometimes it leads to inspiration,
So you
but
so you've been in
it's
LA.
on our dime,
Say
huh?
that. I'm sorry. Say that again.
Yeah, it's like I feel like for that to happen, your crowd work has to elevate above the normal. Like I think I'm doing crowd work now, but not that this is new or innovative, but I have a hiking bit. So I'm asking people about who hike, what kind of weapons they bring out with them. So it's fun uh if your crowd work elevates with you instead of just the normal, what do you do? How long have you been together?
Oh, I like
I,
that. You're marrying those two things, huh?
yeah, yeah. But if I ever ask somebody what they do or how long they've been together, I will tell my openers they can slap me backstage afterwards. That's just so overworked. I don't want to ever say that again.
It is low-hanging fruit at this point. So you've been in LA for
Yeah.
about 2 years. When did you get past at the Comedy Store, and what was that feeling like?
I'm actually still in development, quote
Oh,
unquote, at
my
the
apologies.
store. No, you're fine. Uh yeah, it's been I'm very lucky when I am back home. I get up every single night. I mean, sometimes it's only once a night. I'm still a little bit of a fiend for it, so I wish it was more than that.
Yeah.
But I am there weekly, at least a few times a week, and it's as magical as I dreamed it would be when I was a baby comic in Atlanta. It's like when the main room is on fire, it's another, you're like, this is like no matter how far I get into my career, when you're crushing in the main room, you're like, this is beyond my wildest dreams.
Mm.
It's so cool. And it's such another spot like where just the comics, like sometimes if after a show that I'm not at the store, I'm somewhere else, I'll go to the store afterwards just to hang out with friends. It's always a party there. There's always people in one corner, they're having a philosophical discussion, and in the next, you know, they're talking about poo poo and pee pee. Sorry, I said that. That was gross. But you have children. It's a
Oh,
great, it's
they say much worse, Catherine.
okay. But it's the greatest place on the earth if you're a comic.
My daughter dropped her first F-bomb just before the age of
Good.
3, and I realized at that point that I probably need to do a better job of watching my mouth. Here's the issue that I had with it, though. She actually used it in the proper non-offensive context, other than the fact that people are just offended by that word in general. So I had to take a huge tip of the cap and tell my wife, and yeah, so
What was she referring to, animals procreating?
no, she wasn't. She was not referring to animals procreating or humans trying to get it on with animals. So it was July 4th, and I only remember that because we were getting in the car to load up to go to this July 4th party, this Independence Day party. And I'd gotten her in the car and I'd buckled her up in the back seat and I'd gotten in the driver's seat and we were waiting for my wife and my son at the time, who was a newborn. And she said, "Daddy, can I please have my sunglasses?" And it was one of these bright hot Texas days. And I'm like, "Absolutely, Vivi. Why do you want your sunglasses?" And she responded in the sweetest voice, "Because of the fucking sun."
Oh,
And I said, "I'm sorry,
that.
what did you just say?" And she said, "Can I have my sunglasses, please?" And I said, "No, after that." And she said, "Because of the fucking sun." And so I made sure that she repeated herself so I could hear that I heard it properly. And after the fact, I'm like, "Yeah, Vivi, here's your sunglasses. I'm actually very proud of you. You understand the value and meaning of words, and there's ways to
Right.
use words that are." Even though she didn't realize it, she was not even 3 just yet. But it was a disarming way to do that, and it was very humorous and something we still talk about to this day.
I mean, she gets it. The sun was relentless that day. Her brother's taking forever. He's so needy now. This girl, she's going to be an attorney. She's going to be a CEO somewhere, but she knows how to land a punch.
Yes.
That's adorable.
Yes, she does. And that
Oh,
comes from somebody who also knows how to land a punch. All right, last question now, Catherine. I love asking comics this. I love stand up. You obviously love stand up. You just said it. What do you love about stand up comedy?
I love that you can always grow
Hmm.
and get better and not reinvent yourself, but continue to blossom. And yeah, that's, I like my answer. Yeah, I think the better you get, the more you grow as a person and understand yourself and get honest with yourself, the better you are as a comic.
That is a great answer. I like that answer as well. She is Katherine Blanford. Check her out all week long. South by Southwest starts tomorrow on Friday. This may not air until Monday, though, but she's going to be in Austin all week. I'm going to encourage you because South by Southwest hasn't done a great job of updating where comics are going to be. So give her a follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
It's Katherine Blanford. Katherine, thank you so much for the time. This has been a real honor and pleasure. Safe travels to and from Austin, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.